This movie's about leadership. We need it in this country. It's also about bipartisanship, you know, and people working together. And this movie inspires me to do things that I never would have done. I've been pretty much of a Democrat all my life and gone against David Koch and the Koch brothers. I invited them to come to a screening on Monday night, and I said, let's put down our weapons and do what Mandela did and try to lead this country the right way, sit in a room and work this stuff out, forgive us all for our, you know, trespasses in everybody's mind and try to work. But don't get me wrong, this movie, you know, I don't make boring movies or educational films. You're inspired by seeing this movie, but this movie plays like an action movie, and it's got a great love story to boot.
The fact that this is somebody you know, did that make you even more passionate to get behind this film, maybe more so than another studio?
Yes, and also because I knew we could do things like keep some of his flaws in. This is Nelson Mandela, not glorified like Gandhi. Nelson Mandela, you know, hit his first wife. He regrets it to this day. It's in the movie. Nelson Mandela was a bit of a womanizer. He regrets that to this day. All of it's in there so that you can see a human being. He's not a saint. He's the first person to tell you he's not a saint. And this is a story about how somebody gets to that place where they can do so much good and inspire others.
Randy, how common is it for a new film or material from a new film to make its way into the classroom?
Well, that's some of the things that should really make their way to the classroom, because the key in terms of education these days is how we engage kids. And when kids feel inspired by something, then it creates a path to more engagement and more thought, where they see that education is a pathway to something, not something to run away from. And so what I love about education through film, and particularly what Harvey Weinstein does, is that he inspires and teaches at the same time in a way that people are riveted. I sat through the film with all the kids today, and you couldn't hear a pin drop. You couldn't see anybody texting or doing any of that, because kids were riveted by the film and the messages of the film, and there were many of them there. So I take engagement, inspiration as a vehicle for teaching and learning any day of the week.
Harvey, at this time of year, it always seems like there are a lot of Weinstein Awards contenders in the mix. I mean, this is no exception. Easier said than done, however. I mean, you guys make it look pretty easy. What is that process like?
It's perfectionism, and, you know, or at least an attempt at it, you know, and you try to drive yourself and the people you work with, you know, to do well. And I just think that for us, the awards are a way of giving publicity to movies that deserve it. You know, tomorrow night, you know, movies are going to open, comic book movies, Hunger Games. I saw the new Hunger Games. It's pretty good, really good, as a matter of fact. And people will flock to that. I understand that. But it's a way of putting the light on films that maybe aren't as commercial as they say. But man, I'm telling you, I'll put this movie against any other movie. I'll put it against the Avengers. I'll put it against anything. Randy's right. You can't hear a pin drop in this movie. The movie kicks butt and is inspirational.
President Obama, the First Lady, have seen this movie at a White House screening. Colin Powell has seen this movie. John McCain has seen this movie. Does it help when, you know, for a partnership like this, when people in Washington are also very aware of the film?
Yes, of course it helps, but we actually need to teach Washington some lessons about how you actually create movements and fight for what's right, but do it in a way to have long-term opportunity, equality, and democracy. And so underlying this great, fast action love story is a message not only about leadership, but about how you actually move into a direction of a country coming together.
Yesterday, we had John McCain, Colin Powell, and Hillary Clinton on the same stage. Two Republicans, you know, one very famous Democrat. You know, you could see the friendliness, you could see that the movie brought them together, and it's not to say that this is the only thing that can bring you together. That's what we're going to walk out of here with. If our kids see this movie, they're going to learn something about leadership, and they're going to learn something that Mandela taught us all. He forgave those people. 27 years he was in prison. He walked out and forgave them so he could build for the future. And that's what we have to do now as a country. Move on. Forget it. We've had these political wars. Let's forgive each other and start fresh. And when I watched these two Republicans and that Democrat on stage, I said, wow, this is the beginning. Here's another movement going to happen.
What about a film like this in the context of Hollywood today? You know, hear all these stories about big cutbacks at the big studios. Sony was just in the news. Does that create a challenge when it comes to getting a film like this out there, or actually an opportunity for, say, the Weinstein Company?
It's a challenge and an opportunity because, you know, making movies with this kind of subject matter, you know, it's not what people perceive will do well. Yet that's what we do at our company, is defy gravity and have these movies do well, because it's important that they do well. We can make commercial movies just as good as anybody else. I mean, it's when you see a King's Speech or a Silver Linings or a movie that deals with issues do well. You know, we're pretty good in the Django department, in the Pulp Fiction department, but I like when we turn our attention to these other films that need it.
All right, and just a final question. Obviously, the movie-going experience is changing. You guys have a partnership with Netflix. Netflix has said it would love to get into making original movies. Have you spoken with them at all about that possibility?
Well, Netflix has been a great partner. They're so supportive with movies like this. We're not dating any movies with anybody. You know, I grew up in a movie theater, and I'm planning to continue to be inside a movie theater. You know, and if it ends in a movie theater, that's a good place as far as I'm concerned. So my first, you know, is I protect that great communal experience of watching movies in the dark with strangers who quickly become friends.